Elena Rodriguez walked into the big crystal room on Nexus Prime. Her black shoes made soft sounds on the shiny floor. She looked around at all the alien faces staring at her. Some had blue skin, others had green scales, a few had tentacles instead of arms. But they all looked scared. 50 years ago, these same aliens had kicked humans out of their war club. Now they wanted humans back. Elena almost smiled, but she kept her face serious. "The human ambassador has arrived," announced Vextai. He was tall and thin, with purple skin and 4 arms. His voice shook a little when he spoke. Elena had never seen the proud Altarian leader look so worried before. Elena sat down in the chair made for humans. It was the only chair that looked normal to her. Everything else in the room was built for creatures much bigger or much stranger than people. "Thank you for coming," said Kretok. The squid-like alien's tentacles moved in nervous patterns. "We know this is difficult." Elena remembered the last time she was in this room. Back then, Kretok had been shouting about how dangerous humans were. He had voted to ban them from all galactic wars. Now, he could barely look at her. "The Zephyrians have taken 3 more star systems," Vextai continued. "Our fleets cannot stop them. They learn too fast. Every time we try a new attack, they figure it out in hours." Elena nodded. She had been watching the war from Earth. The Zephyrians were smart. Too smart. They were like a giant brain that could think of answers to any problem. The galaxy's armies used the same old tricks they had used for thousands of years. The Zephyrians just laughed and found ways around them. "How many ships have you lost?" Elena asked. 2,000 in the last month," whispered Quillek, the fuzzy bear-like creature from the Quillan Federation. "My people are running away from their home worlds. We have nowhere left to go." Elena felt sorry for them, but she also felt angry. These aliens had spent 50 years calling humans crazy and dangerous. They said humans were too wild to fight in real wars. They said humans broke too many rules. She remembered the stories her grandfather told her. Captain Jake Morrison had been in charge of the Earthship Defiant Spirit back then. There was a small fight between 2 alien groups near a place called the Corvan border. The Galactic Council asked humans to help keep the peace. Jake and his crew did help, but they helped in a very human way. The enemy was hiding behind a big space station. Normal tactics said to attack the station with lots of ships and guns. Jake had a different idea. He filled a cargo ship with old refrigerators, broken computers, and lots of soap. Then he crashed the ship into the station's main computer room. The soap mixed with water from broken pipes. The refrigerators and computers started sparking. Soon the whole station was covered in electric bubbles that made all their equipment stop working. The enemy had to give up because they could not see or talk to each other. The galaxy called this destruction of civilian property and misuse of household items in warfare. Jake called it Tuesday. But that was not the worst part. The real problem came when the enemy tried to attack a human colony. They expected humans to fight back with normal space battles. Instead, the colonists did something the galaxy had never seen before. They turned their whole moon into a giant speaker. Then they played music so loud and so bad that enemy ships could not concentrate. The music was earth death metal mixed with children's songs and the sound of people eating soup. The enemy pilots went crazy and flew away as fast as they could. The galaxy was shocked. They said humans had weaponized audio entertainment and violated 17 laws about noise in space. The humans just shrugged and said the music was not even that loud compared to their rock concerts. The final straw came when Captain Morrison's crew captured an enemy battleship by filling it with glitter. Somehow they got thousands of pounds of tiny, shiny pieces onto the ship. The enemy could not see their controls. The glitter got into their breathing systems. Everything they touched became sparkly and slippery. The enemy surrendered after 2 hours. They said they would rather die than fight humans again. Some of them were still finding glitter in their fur 3 months later. The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. They said humans were too dangerous and too crazy to fight in space wars. They banned all human ships from galactic conflicts. They said humans could defend their own worlds, but they could not help other species fight. Elena's grandfather Jake always laughed when he told that story. He said the aliens were scared because humans did not follow their rule book. They expected war to be neat and organized like a chess game. Humans treated war like a playground fight where anything could happen. Now Elena sat in the same room where they had banned her people. The aliens who had called humans too wild and too dangerous were begging for help. "What exactly do you want from us?" Elena asked. Vextai looked around at the other council members. His four hands moved nervously. "We want you to fight the Zephyrians." "I thought we were too dangerous for galactic wars." "The situation has changed," Kretok said quickly. "The Zephyrians are different from any enemy we have faced. Normal military tactics do not work on them." Elena leaned back in her chair. She thought about all the human colonies that had asked for help during the past 50 years. The galaxy had said no every time. They said humans had to solve their own problems. "So when you need someone to follow rules and be polite, you kick us out," Elena said. "But when you need someone to break rules and be crazy, you call us back." The room became very quiet. Some of the aliens looked ashamed. Others looked desperate. "Please," whispered Quillek. "My children are hiding in caves on the edge of the galaxy. If the Zephyrians find them..." Elena stood up. She was much smaller than most of the aliens in the room, but they all watched her carefully. "I will talk to my government," she said. "But if humans come back to fight your war, we do it our way. No rules, no limits, no complaints when we use soap and glitter and loud music." Vextai nodded quickly. "Anything you need." Elena walked toward the door. She stopped and looked back at the scared alien faces. "You should know something," she said. 50 years ago, my grandfather was just having fun. If you think that was bad, wait until you see what humans can do when we are really trying." She left the room. Behind her, the aliens sat in worried silence. They were about to learn why humans had been banned from galactic wars, and they were about to understand why that might have been a mistake. Commander Lisa Brooks sat in the dark room filled with glowing screens. The human space station watchtower floated at the edge of human space, far from the fighting. But Lisa could hear everything that happened in the war through the radio signals her team picked up. She did not like what she heard. "Another distress call from the Corvin sector," said Lieutenant Jake Murphy. He was young and new to the job. His hands shook as he listened to the alien voices crying for help. "Sounds like the 7th Fleet is gone." Lisa closed her eyes. The 7th Fleet had been one of the galaxy's strongest groups of warships, 200 ships with the best weapons money could buy. Now they were just floating metal and dead aliens. "How long did they last?" Lisa asked. 6 hours, Jake said quietly. The Zephyrians learned their attack patterns in the first hour. After that, it was just cleanup. Lisa had been watching this war for 3 months. Every time it was the same story. The galaxy's armies would come up with a new plan. They would attack the Zephyrians with everything they had. For a little while, it would work. Then the Zephyrians would figure out the plan and turn it against them. The Zephyrians were not like other aliens. They did not have individual minds. Instead, they were all connected in one giant brain that covered their whole species. When one Zephyrian learned something, they all learned it instantly. When the galaxy used a new weapon, every Zephyrian in the universe knew how to defend against it within minutes. "Commander, you need to hear this," called out Sergeant Amy Chen from across the room. She was listening to a different radio channel. Her face was pale. Lisa walked over and put on the headphones. She heard the voice of Admiral Tokvar, the famous Altarian war hero. He sounded tired and scared. "This is Admiral Tokvar to any ships in the area." His voice crackled through the static. "The Zephyrians have broken through our lines. They are heading for the Quillen homeworld. We cannot stop them. Repeat, we cannot stop them." Lisa had met Tokvar once at a peace conference. He was old and wise and had won more battles than any other admiral in the galaxy. If he was giving up, things were very bad. She switched to another channel and heard similar messages. The proud Corvin Empire was begging for help. The peaceful Quillen Federation was loading their children onto refugee ships. Even the tough Brutarian warriors were running away from the Zephyrians. "Ma'am," Jake said nervously, "Admiral Martinez wants to talk to you." Lisa sighed. Admiral Tony Martinez was in charge of all human military forces. He was a good man, but he followed orders even when the orders were stupid. Earth's government had told him to stay out of the Galactic War no matter what happened. She pressed a button and Tony's face appeared on her screen. He looked tired. His gray hair was messy and his uniform was wrinkled. "Lisa, what's the situation out there?" he asked. "Bad and getting worse," Lisa replied. "The Zephyrians just destroyed another fleet. At this rate, they'll control half the galaxy by next month." Tony rubbed his forehead. "And our orders are still to observe only. No interference." "Tony, there are millions of refugee ships out there. Families with children running for their lives. We could help them." "I know," Tony said quietly. "But after what happened 50 years ago, Earth's government doesn't want to get involved in another galactic war." Lisa understood, but she did not like it. 50 years ago, humans had been kicked out of galactic affairs because they fought too strangely. Now the galaxy was dying because they could not fight strangely enough. "There's something else," Tony continued. "Dr. Amy Foster has been studying the Zephyrian attack patterns. She thinks she's found something important." The screen split and Dr. Foster appeared next to Tony. She was a small woman with wild brown hair and thick glasses. She looked excited and scared at the same time. "Commander Brooks," Dr. Foster said quickly, "I've been analyzing every battle report we've received. The Zephyrians are incredibly good at adapting to logical military strategies, but there's a pattern to how they think." "What kind of pattern?" Lisa asked. "They're like a giant computer. They take information, process it through logical rules, and come up with the best response. It's perfect for dealing with normal military tactics because most species fight in predictable ways." Lisa was getting interested. But computers have a weakness. They can only work with the information they're given. If you give them information that doesn't make sense, or if you do something completely illogical, they get confused. On another screen, Lisa watched a Zephyrian ship destroy 3 galactic battleships in perfect formation. The alien ship moved like it was dancing, always one step ahead of its enemies. "Dr. Foster," Lisa said slowly, "are you saying the Zephyrians can't handle unpredictable enemies?" "Exactly. They've never faced an opponent that didn't follow standard military doctrine. Every species in the galaxy fights the same way. They have rules and plans and organized strategies. The Zephyrians have learned to beat all of those." Lisa started to smile. She was beginning to understand where this was going. "But humans don't fight that way," she said. "No, we don't," Dr. Foster grinned. "Remember the stories about Captain Morrison and the glitter bomb? Or the time humans turned a moon into a speaker? The Zephyrians have probably never seen anything like that." Admiral Martinez looked uncomfortable. "Are you suggesting we should get involved in this war?" Before anyone could answer, all the screens in the room started flashing red. Jake Murphy was getting an emergency signal. "Commander," he called out, "it's from the Galactic Council. They're asking to speak with our government directly." Lisa, Tony, and Dr. Foster looked at each other. In 50 years, the Galactic Council had never asked to speak with Earth's leaders. They had always said humans were too dangerous and unpredictable to be trusted with important decisions. "Patch it through," Lisa ordered. The screen changed to show the crystal chamber on Nexus Prime. But instead of the proud, confident aliens Lisa remembered, she saw scared creatures huddled together like frightened children. Ambassador Kretok appeared on the screen. His tentacles were pale and shaking. "This is a formal request from the Galactic Council to the government of Earth," he said in a voice that barely whispered. "We are asking for military assistance against the Zephyrian invasion force." Lisa almost laughed. The same aliens who had banned humans from galactic wars were now begging for help. "We understand this is unusual," Kretok continued. "We know we have not always been friendly to human military methods, but the situation is desperate. Standard tactics have failed. We need unconventional approaches." The transmission ended. The room was quiet except for the sound of computers beeping and distant radio signals carrying bad news from across the galaxy. "Well," said Admiral Martinez, "I guess I need to call the president." Lisa looked back at her screens. Out there in the dark of space, alien families were running for their lives. Proud warriors were giving up without a fight. Ancient civilizations were falling to an enemy that thought too fast and too logically to be beaten by normal means. But humans were not normal. They never had been. Maybe it was time to remind the galaxy why they had been banned from galactic wars in the first place. "Tony," Lisa said, "when you talk to the president, tell her something for me." "What's that?" "Tell her it's time to show the galaxy what humans can really do when we're not holding back." President Helen Clark sat at the big oval table in the White House. Around her were the most important military leaders on Earth. General Peter Hayes looked serious as always. Admiral Karen Stone tapped her fingers on the table. Everyone was thinking about the same thing. The galaxy wanted humans to fight in their war. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," President Clark said. 50 years ago they kicked us out because we were too crazy. Now they want us back because we're too crazy." General Hayes nodded. "That's about right, ma'am. The Zephyrians are beating everyone because they can predict normal military tactics. The galaxy thinks our unusual methods might work better." President Clark had read all the reports. The Zephyrians were like a giant computer brain that learned everything instantly. Normal armies were losing because they fought in ways the enemy could understand and counter. But humans had never fought normal wars. "What are our conditions if we agree to help?" she asked. Admiral Stone opened a folder. "Complete tactical control, no interference from Galactic Military Command. Permission to use any methods we think necessary, even if they seem crazy to other species. And immunity from war crimes charges," added General Hayes. "Some of our tactics might look pretty strange to alien judges." President Clark almost smiled. She remembered her grandfather's stories about the old days when humans first met aliens. Back then, humans thought they had to prove they were civilized and peaceful. They tried to follow alien rules and be polite. That had not worked out very well. "What kind of unusual methods are we talking about?" she asked. General Hayes and Admiral Stone looked at each other. They both seemed a little nervous. "Well," Admiral Stone said slowly, "Captain Ryan Cooper has some ideas." President Clark knew about Captain Cooper. He was in charge of the experimental ship Chaos Theory. The ship was built using human military philosophy, which meant it was designed to do things that should not work but somehow did. "What kind of ideas?" "He wants to fill cargo ships with rubber ducks and crash them into enemy vessels," General Hayes said. "He thinks the psychological impact will be devastating." President Clark stared at him. "Rubber ducks?" "Yes, ma'am, millions of them. He says when the enemy opens their ship and finds it full of yellow bath toys, they'll be too confused to fight properly." President Clark rubbed her temples. This was exactly the kind of thing that had gotten humans banned from galactic wars in the first place. "What else?" Admiral Stone cleared her throat. "Chief Engineer Mike Johnson has been working on some new weapons. He calls them strategic stupidity missiles. I'm afraid to ask. They're designed to make enemy computers think in circles until they crash. The missiles broadcast mathematical problems that have no solutions, like what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Enemy artificial intelligence systems try to solve them and get stuck in infinite loops." President Clark was quiet for a long moment. She thought about all the refugee ships fleeing across the galaxy. She thought about proud alien civilizations falling to an enemy they could not understand. Then she thought about what humans could do when they stopped trying to be normal. "There's something else you should know," General Hayes said. "Dr. Sandra Lee and her team have been studying Zephyrian psychology. They think they've found a weakness." Dr. Lee appeared on a video screen. She was in her lab surrounded by computers and alien biology books. "Madam President," Dr. Lee said, "the Zephyrians are incredibly logical. Their whole species thinks like one giant computer. They can solve any problem that follows normal patterns." "But," President Clark prompted, "but they can't handle true randomness. When they encounter something completely illogical, their collective mind gets stuck trying to understand it. It's like giving a computer program a question it wasn't designed to answer. This was starting to make sense to President Clark. Humans were very good at being illogical. Dr. Lee, do you really think our methods would work against them? Ma'am, I've studied every battle report from this war. The Zephyrians win because they can predict what their enemies will do next. But no one can predict what humans will do next, because half the time, we don't know ourselves. President Clark stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the Washington Monument reaching up toward the stars. Somewhere out there, families were running for their lives while their protectors failed them. If we do this, she said, we do it completely. No half measures, no trying to make other species comfortable with our methods. Yes, ma'am, General Hayes agreed. And I want our best people in charge, the ones who think outside the box so far that they can't even see the box anymore. Admiral Stone smiled. Captain Cooper will be thrilled. President Clark turned back to face her advisors. Set up a meeting with the Galactic Council. Tell them we'll help, but only under our conditions. Complete tactical control, no questions about our methods. And if they don't like how we fight this war, they can remember that they asked for our help. 2 hours later, Captain Ryan Cooper stood on the bridge of the Chaos Theory. His ship was unlike anything else in human space. Where normal ships had smooth lines and logical designs, the Chaos Theory looked like someone had built it from spare parts and held it together with hope and duct tape. But Captain Cooper knew his ship was actually the most advanced vessel humans had ever built. It just looked crazy on purpose. Captain, called out Lieutenant Sandra Kim from the weapons station, Chief Johnson wants to know if we're really going to use the rubber duck missiles. Captain Cooper grinned. Tell him to load as many as we can carry, and add some of those squeaky sound effects we talked about. Sir? Lieutenant Kim looked confused. Think about it, Captain Cooper explained. You're a fierce alien warrior. You've conquered half the galaxy with superior logic and advanced technology. Then a human ship crashes into your vessel and fills it with thousands of rubber ducks that squeak when you step on them. How would that make you feel? Lieutenant Kim started to smile. Confused and probably a little scared. Exactly. And confused, scared enemies make mistakes. Across the ship, Chief Engineer Mike Johnson was putting the finishing touches on his latest invention. He called it the Chaos Engine, and it was designed to broadcast pure randomness into space. Not random numbers or random patterns, but truly random events that had no logical explanation. The engine could make enemy computers display pictures of cats playing pianos. It could change all the text on their screens to recipes for chocolate chip cookies. It could make their weapons systems play children's songs instead of firing. Chief Johnson, called his assistant Ben Clark. Are you sure this thing won't affect our own computers? Mike grinned and patted the strange device. Oh, it probably will. But our computers are used to dealing with human logic, which means they're already half crazy. The enemy computers are going to have a much harder time adapting. In the ship's medical bay, Dr. Sandra Lee was preparing psychological warfare materials. She had studied alien cultures for years and knew exactly what would confuse and frighten different species. For the logical Zephyrians, she had prepared videos of humans doing completely illogical things. Humans putting pineapple on pizza. Humans arguing about whether hot dogs were sandwiches. Humans watching sports where grown adults hit a small ball with sticks and then ran in circles. Doctor, asked her assistant Julia Parker, do you really think showing them videos of baseball will help win the war? Dr. Lee smiled. Julia, imagine you're a super-intelligent hive mind that can solve any logical problem in the universe. Then you watch humans spend 3 hours hitting a ball and running in a square, and somehow millions of them think this is entertaining. How would you react? Julia thought about it. I'd probably have a nervous breakdown. Exactly. All across the human fleet, similar preparations were taking place. Soldiers practiced fighting while wearing silly costumes. Engineers designed weapons that should not work but did anyway. Strategists planned battles that made no sense but somehow always ended with humans winning. The galaxy had asked for human help. They were about to get it in the most human way possible. President Clark received one final message from the Galactic Council before the fleet departed. It was from Ambassador Kretok, and he sounded desperate. "Please hurry," his message said. "The Zephyrians have taken 6 more systems. We estimate we have 2 weeks before they reach the core worlds. We're counting on you." President Clark recorded her reply carefully. "Don't worry," she said. "Humans are coming, and we're bringing rubber ducks." Admiral Rachel Green stood on the bridge of the Pandemonium and watched the Zephyrian fleet through her main screen. The enemy ships moved in perfect formation, like dancers who had practiced the same routine a million times. They were beautiful and deadly and completely logical. That was about to change. "All ships, this is Admiral Green," she said into her radio. "Remember, we're not here to fight fair. We're here to end this war as fast as possible so everyone can go home. Use every trick you know, and if you don't know any tricks, make some up." The human fleet spread out across space. To any normal military observer, it would look like chaos. Ships moved in random directions. Some vessels were painted bright pink. Others had giant smiley faces on their hulls. The flagship, Pandemonium, was decorated with Christmas lights that blinked in no particular pattern. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Commander Julia Parker from the weapons station, "the Zephyrians are trying to analyze our formation." Admiral Green smiled. "Good. Let them waste time trying to find a pattern that doesn't exist. How long until we're in range?" 5 minutes, ma'am." "Perfect. Signal Captain Anderson. Tell him to launch the first wave." Colonel Steve Anderson received the signal on his ship. Absolute nonsense. He was in charge of the ground forces, but he had convinced Admiral Green to let him try something special first. "All right, people," he announced to his crew. "It's time to make history. Launch the playground equipment." His crew had spent weeks preparing for this moment. They opened the cargo bay doors and pushed out hundreds of items that belonged in a children's park. Swings, slides, monkey bars, and merry-go-rounds floated through space toward the Zephyrian fleet. The enemy ships immediately scanned the approaching objects. Their computers tried to identify the threat level of a rubber swing set. The analysis came back as unknown recreational device, threat level uncertain. The Zephyrians had never encountered recreational devices in battle before. Their collective mind spent valuable processing power trying to understand why humans would launch playground equipment at them. While they were distracted, the real attack began. Captain Dan Miller piloted his ship, Logical Fallacy, straight at the largest Zephyrian vessel. But instead of firing weapons, he opened his communication channels and started broadcasting something the Zephyrians had never heard before. "This is Captain Miller to all enemy ships," he said cheerfully. "I challenge your fleet commander to a dance battle. Winner takes all." The Zephyrian collective mind paused. In their database of military protocols, there was no entry for dance battle. They had procedures for duels, sieges, bombardments, and negotiations, but nobody had ever challenged them to solve a conflict through interpretive movement. "Sir," called his weapons officer, "they're not responding to your challenge." "Then we'll have to show them how it's done," Captain Miller replied. He activated the ship's external speakers and started playing Earth music at maximum volume. The song was a mix of classical opera, heavy metal, and what humans called dubstep. The music hit the Zephyrian ships like a wave of pure confusion. Their audio sensors had never encountered anything like it. The collective mind tried to analyze the tactical significance of sounds that seemed to follow no logical pattern. While the Zephyrians were distracted by the music, Lieutenant Commander Julia Parker made her move. She piloted a cargo ship called Sparkle Storm directly at the enemy flagship. Her ship was filled with something that had helped humans win battles for 50 years. Glitter. But this was not ordinary glitter. Chief Engineer Mike Johnson had modified it to be extra sticky, extra shiny, and extra annoying. When Julia crashed her ship into the Zephyrian vessel, the impact spread billions of tiny reflective pieces throughout the enemy's hull. The Zephyrian ship immediately lost visual contact with the rest of their fleet. Every sensor was covered in sparkling particles. The crew could not see their control panels. Worse, the glitter got into their air systems and made everything taste like craft projects gone wrong. Enemy flagship is blind and confused. Julia reported as she escaped in a small pod. "They're trying to use windshield wipers on their sensors, but it's not working." Admiral Green watched the battle unfold with satisfaction. The Zephyrians were trying to adapt to human tactics, but they could not figure out what the tactics were supposed to accomplish. "Captain Cooper," she called over the radio, "you're up next." Captain Ryan Cooper had been waiting for this moment. His ship, Chaos Theory, was loaded with his favorite weapons, rubber ducks. But these were not normal rubber ducks. Each one was equipped with a tiny speaker that played a different annoying sound. Some quacked, others made sirens noises. A few played recordings of humans singing badly in the shower. Captain Cooper launched all million rubber ducks at once. They spread through space like a yellow cloud of chaos, each one making its own unique noise. The Zephyrian collective mind tried to process this new threat. Their computers ran thousands of simulations trying to understand the military purpose of rubber waterfowl. The analysis systems overheated from trying to find tactical significance in bath toys. "Enemy ships are slowing down," reported Lieutenant Sandra Kim. "I think their computers are having trouble processing our attack strategy." "That's because there is no strategy," Captain Cooper laughed. "We're just throwing rubber ducks at them because it seemed like a fun idea." Meanwhile, Dr. Sandra Lee was conducting her own form of warfare. She had hacked into the Zephyrian communication network and was broadcasting educational videos about human culture. The videos showed humans doing things that made no logical sense. People waiting in long lines to buy coffee. Individuals paying money to watch other people exercise at gyms. Humans arguing passionately about whether the toilet paper should hang over or under the roll. The Zephyrian collective mind became more confused with each video. These creatures had conquered 3 star systems, but they could not understand why humans would voluntarily watch other humans run on machines that went nowhere. "Dr. Lee," called her assistant Ben Clark, "the Zephyrians are sending us mathematical questions. I think they're trying to understand our logic." Dr. Lee looked at the alien message. It asked, "What is the tactical advantage of arguing about toilet paper orientation?" She typed back, "There is no tactical advantage. We just like arguing about things that don't matter." The response from the Zephyrians was immediate. "Error, does not compute. Please clarify strategic value." Dr. Lee smiled and typed, "Some humans put pineapple on pizza. Explain the logic of that." The Zephyrian communication system went silent for 10 minutes. Across the battlefield, similar scenes were playing out. Human ships were using weapons that should not work. Soldiers were fighting while dressed as pirates and singing sea shanties. Engineers were fixing broken equipment by hitting it with hammers and saying encouraging words. Colonel Anderson led a boarding party onto a disabled Zephyrian ship. Instead of using normal military gear, his soldiers carried pool noodles, whoopee cushions, and spray bottles filled with silly string. The Zephyrian defenders were completely unprepared for enemies who fought with foam tubes and made rude noises with rubber devices. Every time they tried to adapt their tactics, the humans would switch to a completely different approach that made even less sense. "Sir," called Sergeant Amy Foster, "the enemy is asking if we're actually trying to win this battle." Colonel Anderson thought about it. "Tell them we're not trying to win. We're trying to end the fight so we can go get lunch." "What should I say when they ask why lunch is more important than military victory?" "Tell them we're having tacos today." The Zephyrian collective mind spent valuable processing power trying to understand why humans would prioritize Mexican food over conquest. Admiral Green watched as the enemy fleet began to break apart. The Zephyrian ships were no longer moving in formation. Some vessels were spinning in circles trying to shake off glitter. Others were broadcasting requests for clarification about human tactical doctrine. "All ships," she announced. "The enemy appears to be having some kind of collective nervous breakdown. Continue current operations until they surrender or run away." The battle ended 3 hours later when the Zephyrian fleet sent a message in broken English. "We give up. Your species does not make sense. Please stop throwing rubber animals at us." Admiral Green accepted their surrender graciously. She also gave them a gift, a care package containing Earth items like rubber ducks, glitter, and a book explaining why humans put pineapple on pizza. The The Zephyrians took their gifts and flew away as fast as their ships could carry them. They were never seen in that part of the galaxy again. Later, when alien historians asked the Zephyrian survivors what had happened in the battle, they all gave the same answer. Humans happened. We do not recommend it.